Previously, in a world ruled by magic, Mash was an anomaly, lacking any magical abilities despite his impressive physical strength. Society rejected him for his difference, but Mash refused to let that define him. He struck a deal with Brad, a powerful mage, to become the chosen one in the most prestigious school of magic in the country. Mash's admittance to the academy was a challenge, but he passed the entrance exams with flying colors, relying solely on his strength and intelligence. The next day, while showcasing his flying skills, Mash caught the attention of a sinister character named Cavil, who bullied him. However, Mash won the respect of his classmates by defeating Cavil and the vice principal. During a conversation with Finn, Tom affectionately called Mash a mushroom head and invited him to represent Adler's dorm in a duelo match. Mash's astounding performance in class garnered him a reputation despite his deficiency in the art of magic. Soon, the highly anticipated duelo match between Adler and Lang dorm commenced, showcasing the players' prowess in broomstick maneuvers. However, during the game, the spectators grew restless and voiced their discontent as Mash made no effort to soar through the air. This was not a matter of choice, but rather a result of his inability to do so. Mash could only watch with a heavy heart as his peers berated him for his perceived lack of contribution. Meanwhile, Lemon and Finn, his concerned classmates, observed with growing apprehension. Suddenly, Tom swooped down towards Mash, his eyes blazing with frustration as he reprimanded him for not giving his all. Despite his attempts to understand, Mash's peculiar expressions only served to confuse him further. Tom reminded Mash of their shared dream to become the top in their sport, but Mash had no recollection of this promise. In a bizarre gesture, Tom suddenly began moving in a peculiar way and muttering about Bamboo's strength. Mash's confusion only deepened as he wondered if Tom was under the influence of some sort of drug. Eventually, Tom took it upon himself to teach Mash the rules of their game. He explained that the goal was to gain control of the ball and score points, much like in the world-renowned Harry Potter series. However, unlike in that fictional world, the use of magic was strictly forbidden, and players relied solely on their broomstick techniques. Despite Tom's best efforts to clarify the rules, Mash remained fixated on the concept of bamboo, leading to further misunderstanding. Well, they don't call him Mushroom Head for no reason. A solemn expression crossed Tom's face as he reminded Mash of their shared mission to emerge victorious. With determination etched in his features, Tom mounted his broom and prepared to return to the field. However, his momentum was abruptly halted as an opponent deliberately struck him, sending him spiraling away. Concerned voices from the girls in the crowd filled the air, while the apologetic player responsible for the collision tried to downplay his intentions. Ignoring the insincere apology, Mash hurried to Tom's side, only to find their opponent's lead insurmountable at that point. To compound their misfortune, Tom sensed a bone-breaking pain and lamented the lack of sportsmanship displayed by their adversary, who seemed more focused on winning than playing fair. The player nonchalantly left the scene, further diminishing Tom's hope. Amidst their dire circumstances, Tom conveyed to Mash that time was running out, but winning wasn't the sole objective. What truly mattered was giving their all, regardless of the outcome. As the score gap continued to widen, confidence radiated from Lang dorm, solidifying their belief in an imminent victory. Surprisingly, Mash's grip tightened around his broom, his determination soaring. He assumed a poised starting position, ready to make a leap. The audience watched in puzzlement as they witnessed Mash seemingly halt the air around him, though in reality, he was kicking against the air with all his might. Those fortunate enough to witness this spectacle were left utterly dumbfounded. With determination blazing in his eyes, Mash fervently implored his teammate to pass him the ball. The audience, initially dismissing his actions as foolish, failed to perceive him as a genuine threat. However, in the blink of an eye, Mash unleashed the ball with astonishing force and scored a point. A girl in the stands could only gasp in awe, her voice echoing through the arena. Even the announcer, taken aback by the unexpected turn of events, couldn't help but express amazement. Though concerns lingered about the daunting task of catching up points in such limited time, everyone's attention soon shifted as they noticed the ball curving back towards Mash. Wasting no time, Mash propelled the ball with a skillful curve toward the goal. To the astonishment of the spectators, the ball obediently returned to him repeatedly, as if bound by an invisible tether. The audience watched in awe and his friend Finn is in complete shock, whereas Lemon is deeply captivated by the spectacle and found herself falling in love with Mash's remarkable display. Unrelenting, Mash continued his onslaught, launching the ball toward the goal until he had amassed an extraordinary tally, nearing 1,000 points. The stunned silence transcended the Lang dorm players, captivating Tom and leaving the entire audience dumbfounded in awe. The duelo match ends with Adler's dorm declared as the victor by the announcer. The crowd cheers for Mash, apologizing for their earlier doubts. He sets a new recruit's high score and receives his first silver coin. Finn praises him, but Mash believes he won't be able to repeat his feat. Suddenly, Tom approaches Mash with his fiery aura, but instead of scolding him, he surprises Mash by hugging him and thanking him while sobbing. During an interview, Mash attributes his victory to his seniors' encouragement. However, a student erases Mash's name from the newspaper, revealing his rivalry with Mash since the entrance exams. In class, Tom pesters Mash to practice, while Lemon invites him to study together, but Mash declines both. Mash seeks Finn's help to get out of situation, but Finn pretends to sleep. As they sat together, Lance approached them and asked if he could join in. Tom was taken aback by the 2 marks on Lance's face, while Lemon remembered him as he was ranked first in entrance exam. She tried to resist his charm to stay faithful to Mash. Mash clarified that they weren't having fun, but Lance proposed they do something enjoyable and Mash suggested playing hide and seek. He gets annoyed by Mash's answer. Suddenly, Lance produced an ancient magical bottle, and as he opened it, Lemon, Finn, and Tom were sucked inside, while Lance held them hostage and demanded that Mash come out to the forest if he wants to save them. He then teleported away to the forest, where he revealed to Mash that they make a bet, and showed him the 2 silver coins he had won. Bewildered and frustrated, Mash demanded that Lance release his friends. Tom was left in shock at the sight of Lance's 2 silver coins, but he soon realized that the multiple marks on Lance's body signified his immense magical power. Single-line magic users were common, but double-line magic users like Lance were rare. Only 1 in 100,000 possessed such a gift, and Lance was one of them. In a bid to prove his superiority, Lance issued a challenge to Mash, using the hostages he had taken as leverage. Though the others urged Mash not to accept the challenge, Lance believed he had the upper hand. With his wand in hand, Lance cast a spell that intensified the gravitational pull in the surrounding area. Meanwhile, Rigro and Brad were deeply concerned about Mash's well-being, but Rigro was too embarrassed to admit it. Suddenly, a violent rumble shook the area, and Mash dashed towards Lance. However, Lance was not one to be underestimated, and he quickly retaliated with a barrage of attacks, all the while taunting Mash. Lance shot a furious look at Mash, irritated that he was getting in the way. He caused Mash to roll across the ground, but Mash wasn't deterred and tried to get back up. Lance warned him that resistance was futile. Suddenly, Mash punched the ground and told Lance that he didn't need to stand. Mash grabbed a root and split the earth, leaving Lance shocked. Mash approached Lance, towering over him as he knelt down. He pointed out that Lance seemed to enjoy rolling on the ground as well. Mash charged toward him, but Lance used his gravity magic to stop his attacks. Mash, however, put more power in his feet and managed to land a hit while evading Lance's attacks. Lance realized that Mash had gotten quicker. Mash quickly snapped Lance's necklace with a punch. As Mash picked up the necklace and opened it, he shuddered at what he saw. It was a picture of a young girl. He stuttered before finally accusing Lance of being a pedophile. Panicking, Mash planned to call the police, but Lance denied that he was a criminal. And Lance revealed that he had a sister complex, leaving Mash speechless. Lance implored Mash to return the necklace, and Mash complied by throwing it back. Lance then posed a question to him: what is the most precious thing in the world? Mash first answered cream puffs, but Lance said that was wrong. Mash then tried with life, but it was still wrong. He came up with love, freedom, and cream puffs again, but all were incorrect. Lance expressed his frustration at Mash's inability to answer a simple question. Annoyed, Mash asked for the answer. Lance glared at him and revealed that it was his little sister. Mash was left speechless once again. Lance called him an idiot for not realizing it, but Mash argued that everyone has their own priorities. Lance then walked towards the cliff and threatened to drop the bottle at full speed with his magic. The 3 were terrified, knowing that if Mash tried to save them, it would be Lance's chance to attack. But Lance was determined to do anything for his sister. He remembered a time when his little sister Anna scolded him for getting into a fight and urged him to let her heal his wounds. Lance fabricates a story about not getting into fights, but his sister Anna knows the truth, that he had actually saved a child from bullying. Anna's smile reassures Lance and she tells him that his clumsy nature is what makes her love him. It brings joy to Lance's heart. In a rush, he heads towards Anna's room, only to find her lying sick in bed. Lance is filled with worry. Their parents inform him about Anna's illness, which will gradually strip away her magical abilities, leaving her with only 5 years to live. They mention that if the situation worsens, they may have to surrender Anna to the government. Lance's father tries to console him by patting his shoulder, but Lance slaps the hand away, declaring that they are no longer his parents. With clenched fists, he blames the Bureau of Magic for creating such a flawed system. In that moment, Lance resolves to become a divine visionary, someone who can bring about change. In the present, to save Anna, Lance lets go of the bottle and enhances its descent with his magic. As he looks at Mash, he notices that Mash is warming up, getting ready for action. Mash assumes a starting position and begins casting a spell called hamstring magic. Lance is unfamiliar with this magic. Mash's muscles become strengthened, and he announces his move Big Bang Dash. Lance's mind was thrown into disarray, unable to comprehend the situation. Mash, with a determined expression on his face, was resolute in his determination to win the match and protect their friendship. In a split second, Mash dashed forward, capturing the bottle with a forceful impact. Lance's gaze shifted to the cliff, only to find Mash mysteriously absent. In a surprising turn of events, Mash had already repositioned himself on his back. Lance was taken aback, struggling to believe what he had just witnessed, yet his resolve to fight remained unwavering. However, Mash saw no need for the confrontation, deeming it unnecessary. Lance was left dumbfounded as Mash revealed the empty bottle he had dropped. Mash proceeded to scan his body. Lance questioned why he was relinquishing the opportunity to claim the coins. Suspicion crept into Lance's mind, thinking that Mash was merely toying with him. However, Mash refuted the notion and, upon being asked for his genuine motive, confessed to being the clumsy type. Lance's eyes widened at the striking resemblance to his sister's words. For a brief moment, he found himself speechless before deciding to take his leave. Lance tossed a silver coin to Mash as a symbol of goodwill. Mash watched Lance retreat, pondering the potential outcome had they engaged in a genuine battle. The three friends celebrated their liberation while Lance made his exit. Meanwhile, Mash couldn't help but feel remorseful for opening the bottle so hastily. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to subscribe our channel, Annie Explainer.